Okay, we're back for part 2 in simple arrays. Let's see, get myself caught up. Okay, when we had finished off the last part, we just finished by changing the value of isPressed back to 0. So that way when it loops up again, it won't accidentally come into this until you release the left mouse button, which will allow it to come into this if statement, which will then allow it to change it back to a value that will let us check. Okay, let's see. Next, what I want to do is, I think we're good here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, I'm actually going to get rid of this global variable, because that's probably going to confuse you if you're not used to using these kind of variables. When it comes to functions, if you want the value of the variables that you use inside of a function to be seen by other functions or other parts of your program, it has to be a global variable. But if the variable is only going to be used within the function, it doesn't have to be a global variable, which why I'm removing it off of the global thing, because we are just going to be using it as a local variable. So it doesn't have to be known by the next function that we create. But we do now need another global variable, and this one is going to be the maximum size of our array. So whatever the highest number that our I gets to, so if we click 10 times, the value of our I is going to be, a value of 10. We're going to store that value into a variable that we're going to call the size of our array. And once again, it's just a name of a variable. It doesn't really actually mean anything. It only means what we want it to mean. Size of, let's do capitals. Okay, so our size of array. And we're just going to initialize it. We don't need to actually add a value to it yet. So the size of our array, we have that variable, and what we're going to do is in here. So let's assume that we've gone through our loop a couple of times. We've added some click locations into our array, and now we're done. What we're going to do is we're going to press our right mouse button, and that's going to stop our recording. It's going to stop loading new values into our array. And let's see, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of our tooltip. And the way we get rid of the tooltip that's going to be constantly on our screen until we're done is we're just going to type in tooltip and then a comma, and then that's it. We're not going to add any other values afterwards, and that's going to get rid of it off of our screen. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our value of I and we're going to store that into our variable, the size of our array. So size of array colon equals I. But wait. If we did this, so let's assume that we just finished clicking the left mouse button. It's going to store the value of I into our temp variable, or the value of our temp variable into our array for the value of I, but then immediately afterwards it's going to add another one to the I. So what we need to do is compensate for this last increment that we've done, because after we've added in our last value, we've actually then incremented our I back up. So what we need to do is compensate here by saying that the size of array is equal to I minus 1. So we're going to subtract that last time that we added that value. If that's not clear, just leave a comment in below the description, and I'll go over that. But I think you got it. Like I said, we've clicked our mouse button, it's gotten our mouse position, it's stored that mouse position into our array, and then it's added 1 to the value of I. And now let's say assume that we're done now. We press the right mouse button and we're going to store that number into our variable called the size of our array. But because we added this extra value, we need to subtract it off of it now. So that's done, and we have enough of a script now to actually run a test run. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use hotkeys. So I'm going to do Control A. Yeah, Control. I hope this isn't assigned to anything on this, but Control A, and Control A is going to run our function. So all we need to do to run our function is we're just going to copy its name, and we're going to paste it in here, and then afterwards we're going to have a return. And that's it. So we're going to save, and we're going to give a test run. Okay, so there's something wrong. Let's see, temp x, temp y. ToolTip, temp x, temp, line 24. Oh, okay. I do this every now and then. It's not. This isn't the first time I've done this. I put ToolTip. Okay. Let's hope that I didn't do that for the next one as well. I do have a habit of doing that though. So that's not the first time I've done that. So we'll go ahead and save. Okay, so the script's running, but it's not actually doing anything yet. So we have to press Control A to start it, and we should immediately see a tooltip with our X and Y location. Okay, there it is. And if I press down, it's going to store values into our array. But right now, we're not actually able to do anything with it. So what we're going to do is I've already added in a hotkey to exit our script. So I'm just going to do that. Control X, and that exits it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create another function that's going to be our playback. So I'm going to name this, I'm just going to call it playback. So there's the function's name, and what the hell is that? I don't know what the hell that is. I've never seen. I don't know what this is. I've never seen that before. Whatever. I'll just have to deal. I really don't like it though. How the fuck do I get rid of that? I don't know. I've never seen this before. I don't know what I pressed. Okay, anyways, I don't want to get bogged down on bullshit. Okay, so our playback. Let me think. How do we do our playback? Let's see. Okay, first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to create another variable called I. Even though it's got the same name as our last one, because it's a local variable, this is the only location that's going to be able to see it. So it's basically a new variable, and we're going to initialize it at 0. Next, what we're going to do is, let me think. Can we jump right into our loop? I think we can. I think we can jump right into our loop. I might have to backstep in a second, but I think I can go right into my loop. Okay. And we don't want an infinite loop. What we're actually going to do is we're going to loop the number of times for the size of our array. So the size of our array, or the way that we use variables within a loop, is we have to wrap our variable in percent signs. And we're going to type in size of array, which is how many elements that are currently in our array. And, oh, I misspelled. Okay, so the size of our array, so we're going to loop. So let's say we added 10 spaces, it's going to loop this 10 times. Then what it's going to do is it's going to load, let's see. We're going to take our variable, our array, and our current value of our array, and we're going to load that into a temporary variable. And we're just going to call this one x. So x equals x location array and the current value of I. So it's going to be I equals 0. So the value that's stored in our array's position 0, or its first position, is going to get assigned to the variable x. And then we're going to do the same thing with y. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to make it click. So we're going to say click at x and at y. So put our x in, and we will put our y in. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll set it up so that way we can test another thing afterwards. So we're going to have a MouseMove. So we'll have two different ways that we can test this later. And this time I don't need to wrap my variables, but I do need commas in there. And then we'll set a movement speed of, let's say, 40. But like I said, we're not going to use this one right now, so we're just going to comment it out. And let's see, what do I need to do now? Now what I need to do is I need to increment the variable I. So that way it's going to jump back up to the start of the loop again, and our new value of I is going to be 1. So we're going to assign the value that's in the second location of our array into the variable x, and the second location in our variable, our y array, into our variable y. And then it's going to click that location. I is going to get increased again until we get to the end of the size. So here we need I++. And let me see. Okay. I think that looks okay. I think that's okay. We'll find it in a few seconds. Okay. So let's say that we don't just want to run this once. Let's say we want to run it. We want to run it again. What do you think is going to happen is if, let's say, the first time I store 20 click locations into my array, but then the second time I only store 10 locations into my array. What do you think is going to happen? Actually, I guess because we're using the size of our array, nothing's going to happen. But what we can do to get rid of those values is just before we actually start storing our variables in here, what we're going to do is we're going to take our, let's see, is it in here I want to do it? Yeah, why not? Okay, so before I do this, what I'm going to need to do is store a temporary value. I'm going to say that the size of the array to begin with is 0, so it'll make sense what we're doing next. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loop the size of our array. So this is going to clear all the values in our array. So if our array has any values when we run this function, it's going to get rid of those. So we're working with a brand new clean slate. So we're going to dismiss their values. Okay, so size of array. So, and then we need to do our loop. And all we're going to do is we are going to, okay, so what I'm going to want to do here again is after this, you know, I'm just going to create a new variable. I'm going to create a brand new variable, j. This is our next counting variable, and j equals 0 as well. And what we need is we need our array. Okay, so our array in position j, which is 0 to begin with, colon equals null. Okay, so it's going to have no value, it's going to have garbage value, no value. And our y location array in the j position also equals null. So we're going to dismiss the values of those, and then what we're going to do is, just like before with the I, we're going to increment the value of our j. Okay, let me see. Does that look okay? I think we're done. I think we are done. So the first time we're actually going to run the, oh, I need to put that into a hotkey. So S. Let's go with S. Why not? We're going to do Control S to run this one. We're going to copy the name of our function, paste it into here, and then have a return. Okay, we're gonna, I think everything is okay. We'll find out in a second. We'll save. And now we're gonna start our recorder. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Control A. We get our tooltip, and I'm just gonna go around and click a couple of locations. So we have one up here, one over there. Okay, now I'm gonna press the right mouse button, which should stop it. And it didn't. So we have a problem. Oh, I know why. I know why. My bad. My bad. I meant to actually do this before. So this, and then after it's done that, we're going to reassign. I don't think we actually need to reassign it. Is pressed equals 0. Yeah, I don't need to do that. So let's just break. Okay, that's what I was missing. Okay, because otherwise it's just going to keep in our infinite loop. Okay, so I've saved it, running it again with our break, and this is when we press our right mouse button. So as soon as we press our right mouse button, it's going to break out of this loop, which it allows it to finish out of this function. So we'll play, Control A to start recording, and I'm just going to click in a few spots, and then I hit right, which stops. Okay, so it did stop this time, and now I'm going to press Control S to do a playback, and there we go, it's moving. So there we go, we've created an array and loaded it with things, and we've dismissed its values after we're done with them. Okay, so that's that. Now what we're going to do, so that was with the MouseMove. Now we're going to use a more practical application. We're going to re-enable our click, and because of that, we're going to actually, let's add a little bit of a delay in between clicks. So we're going to sleep for 0.4 of a second. We'll save the changes, and then I'm going to pop up a game. So I got a game here, and we are going to press Control A to start recording. I'm going to click a couple of times over here, and then I'm going to click a couple of times over here, and then a couple of times in here. And a couple more, whatever. Okay, I'm going to right click to stop it. Okay, so it's stopped now. And we're going to do our playback. So Control S to start playback. And there we go. Okay, so that's how you create an array and load it. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like. And I'm not sure if you find this too complicated, just let me know, and I might come back to this and create a simpler program to go over this. But I really think that with this example, by the end of it, you should now have a really good understanding of how we create an array, how we declare our array, and then how we use a counting variable to load it. We could also change this j, like we don't have to increment it like this. We could actually literally put values in it like this. So once again, I'm not going to actually type out the real name of our variable. So for the sake of argument, the name of our variable is a. Okay? What we could actually do is a0 equals a1 and so on and so forth. We could do it this way, but this is a more practical application for using arrays, where we use a loop and a counting variable. Okay, so like I said, leave a like if you enjoyed, if you learned something. If you had any problems with it, just leave me a comment, and I'll try to get to you. And have a good day.